Thanks, John. Obviously, big game last weekend, so coming back down a little bit. So focus on Indiana and the opportunities that lie ahead for us. So big game this weekend. Have a bye next weekend, so this very important, crucial, I think, aspect of the season is to go into the bye week, healthy and productive. So I think what we'll do is I'll just take some questions now and we'll go from there. No, I never made it to the pool table. It took a little longer to get home than we thought, but got home and just sort of tried to take it all in a little bit, exactly what had happened, and just spent time with my family. So we had some friends over and stuff, some coaches came over and stuff like that, but got pretty tired about an hour after I got home. So,
Coach, just to follow up on one of your national interviews yesterday, you said that one of the things you did was you spun it around and asked yourself what you would have done in Michigan's situation. What is the difference in the different punt formations? Do you guys have more than one, and what would you have done in that situation?
A lot of different formations in punt. I think you see that across the country right now. So punt is a very innovative, I guess people are extremely innovative in punt formations these days. Obviously, we need to get better at what we're doing. But there's all different type of tacks that you can take. You got to recognize the situation. I think on the field, recognize do they have a guy back in that situation or not. If they don't, you bring your gunners in possibly. There's different things you can do from a blocking scheme thing. But I think more than anything, it just made me pause to reflect on, okay, what do we got to do to make sure that doesn't happen on our end? Because you're trying to practice every situation. We always do, and we always practice these different situations, but I don't think we've practiced one quite like that where that's been the scenario. So I think it just created a pause in all of our minds as a staff. Okay, what would we do in this situation? How would we handle it? And I'm sure that there's a lot of that going around right now across the country relating to what happened in the game, just because of the nature of it.
Mark, I'm sure this will come up, but what's the update on Jalen and the dialogue you've had with him, and what condition is he in?
Yeah, Jalen got back yesterday afternoon, so he was in the offices yesterday in the training room. The update is it's all set. His hip has been repaired and set. He has to stay off of it for 3 months, so it's just a long process, and then after that he'll begin to be able to start rehabbing it. So I'm not sure how long that takes him out. Probably takes him out for spring possibly as well, but we'll see. It just depends on how he handles the rehab. And he was in good spirits, and a lot of people making over. So the man, the legend, is back. Okay.
Just to follow up on that, you're always talking about players got to be in place to make plays when their opportunity comes. And you alluded to this after the game, but there's an example where a kid who doesn't play a lot could have just fallen on the ball and did have the presence of mind to pick it up and run and realize the game ends if he doesn't get in the end zone.
Yeah, you sort of, in plays like that, I think you try and evaluate every single person that's on the field in terms of what they did. Grayson Miller got bumped off. He got bumped off outside, but he reaccelerated back to the block point, and he was there to be able to knock the ball out. I'm not sure he had knocked it out or was swung out, but he was involved in it. Matt Morrissey came off the edge, and he was one step away, and when he muffed it, he was able to make the initial hit. And then you got Jermaine Edmondson, who's just out on the outside, and really all of a sudden gets back involved and makes a big block, and then Jalen scooping the ball up. So a lot of things going on there, and I think that you guys have done a nice job looking at it and sort of detailing it.
Mark, just another follow-up on that. I wonder if you were able to be there when his teammates saw him for the first time, what that situation was like.
He was already in the training room when I walked down there, so a lot of our guys had seen him.
Mark, humor me a little bit here. After the game, I asked you if you had a name for the play yet, and you said, well, I have to think about that. Did you come up with anything?
I came up with Rangers. Rangers, mission 4-10. How's that?
Works perfectly. And
okay. There you go. That's it.
4-10.
That's all I got for you. We're on in Indiana.
With that being said, Indiana's offense presents some challenges over the top. How can, with the secondary being what it is with you guys, how can you stunt them or stop them from being so effective through the air?
Well, we've got good players, first of all. We've got guys with good deep ball judgment. We've got guys that can tackle on the edge. I was impressed with how Grayson Miller and Kari Willis played as true freshmen in that environment. So they're only going to continue to get more accustomed and feel better about not as much anxiety. And they're very level-headed. I think we've got other guys playing out there at corner. I thought that Cox and Calhoun played very well. We'll probably take the red shirt off of Tyson Smith this week. I think that's a for sure. He's been very, very good. He would have been the next corner in the game on Saturday. We just didn't need to use him, but we're going to play him this week, so that's going to happen based on how fast they move and the rapid deployment of their plays. So I think that'll happen. So he'll be involved, and we'll look further into the depth chart. But we've got good players. They've been coached, and expect them to play. But the one thing that we always evaluate, can you tackle? Do you have deep ball judgment? And our guys have that, and they can run. So we'll be fine. We'll be fine back there.
Mark, the last 2 weeks, R.J. Shelton has made 2 incredible catches, one clutch in that Rutgers game, and then one along the sidelines. You guys might be 5-2 if he doesn't make those 2 catches. You kind of expound on his development a little bit and where you've seen it most.
Well, I think R.J., and I said this in the summer, R.J. has made himself into a wide receiver. He's got great ball judgment, ball skills. He's got great quicks. He's explosive. When we first moved him over there, he was a true freshman. That was 2013. There were a lot of things he was in and out of the backfield. He was running the football. He's become more of a viable threat down the field. And he's had a lot of catches for us, a lot of good catches, and he's a great threat for run after catch. And I think his confidence is very high right now, and he's going to be, he's a junior this year, so he'll be a senior next year, but he's played all 4 years for us. So doing an outstanding job, and I think he's a go-to guy. I really do.
Following up on what you just said about Tyson Smith, Mark, you'd been mentioning Josh Butler. Sort of, is it Smith then ahead of Butler? Is it possible both of them will be activated? And then also, do you look at Demetrius Cox moving forward and prefer him at corner?
Day-Day's a wild card. First of all, Cox is a wild card. He can play either or, multitude positions, and he has the experience to do so. And he's started at multiple positions now for us. So we'll see how it fits based on everybody else playing and situationally. And then Josh Butler is playing. He's number 2. I think Tyson is probably maybe a little bit ahead of him, but Josh could play as well. Both of them are working as their number 2 corners, and they're both very good players. You just try, and as much as anything, I've tried to hold our freshmen so that they were able to get their feet on the ground academically and be able to move forward. And you play 4 years, really you're in school 3.5 years because most people tend to want to go work out. So I want them to graduate. There's no question that both those guys could have showed up on special teams already, but in my mind, they should be playing significant plays if we're taking a red shirt off of them. And so that's why we haven't played them yet, because they weren't in position to play significant plays. I think this week Tyson will be for sure. I think maybe Josh may be, but we'll see. We do have other options there. He's a good player, though.
You talked about how this team is prepared to move on and go on after playing in a big game and moving on to the next one. Do you say anything yesterday or today to drive that point home to the team that it's on to Indiana?
Well, it's all about handling success, I think, and we'll paint the picture of our record after big games, after wins and losses, after big games. We'll paint the picture of what we have been and the standard that is expected. And I can't remember that number right off the top of my head, but it's I don't know whether it's 26-6 or 27-6. I'm not sure, but it's pretty it's high. So to me, the worst thing we can do is fall backwards here. So we need to continue to move forward, and our dreams are ahead of us, and they start this Saturday. So I think our players will be ready to play.
I just wanted to ask too about the college football playoff poll. First one comes out in a week or two. Do you guys feel you've made a convincing argument to be a part of that conversation at this point?
I think the only argument that needs to be made is in the last week of that poll, personally. That's the bottom line. All the other stuff is just talk. It's just something to move around and talk about it, and just to evaluate. But from my perspective, what we do at the end of the season in November really is what's going to set us apart.
The backfield picture doesn't look real clear on your depth chart. I think you've got 4 guys listed as starters right now. Could you maybe expound on that a little bit?
Well, we played 3 in the game on Saturday, and at any point in time, you could have said, "There's the starter," or "There's the backup," and we'll probably get the 4th one back. So that's why we really just don't know until we know how the week is shaped out and really, how they're performing in the game and who's hot. But I think all those guys are very capable running backs. Potential big plays, and add something to this football team very positively.
Mark, the decision with Jake Hartberger and Tyler O'Connor at punter going forward this week, I mean, obviously that until the last play, the special teams was not a strength last week. Where is Jake right now, and what's going into that decision?
I think that remains to be seen until we get through this week. Tyler O'Connor has a little bit more experience as a football player on the field in pressure situations. Jake is a redshirt freshman. And I just wanted to make sure that going into the Michigan game, that at Michigan, that his nerves were calm, and we need to be playing better on the punt team, coverage-wise, and punting the football, and snapping the football. And so I'll lay it out there, and what people do with that, they'll probably come after us, but we need to. So we're going to work extremely hard this week, and people have to understand that's a big part of every football game, as you saw this last week, and we need to prepare ourselves mentally. So we're going to punt the best guy. If we don't have the best guy, then we'll find the next best guy.
In 2001, after the T.J. Duckett catch in the end zone, Michigan State was flying high after a Michigan win. Indiana came in and blew the doors off the place a little bit. I'm curious, I know it's been 14 years, but do you go back with them and just remind what can happen after a magnitude of win, or is it so far it's just irrelevant to these players?
I think what's important, as I talked with before, is about handling success and being able to move forward. I think 2001, I wasn't here, they weren't here, different time, different place, but obviously it can happen. Indiana has an outstanding football team. I think they're extremely well coached. Kevin Wilson does an unbelievable job. They have a big-time quarterback in Sudfield, who leads the league in passing. Very, very capable wide receivers, big play guy out there. Talented tailbacks. Defense is playing better. They're extremely capable. They've played, their football games are 4-3 right now. Every single game has been extremely competitive. They probably, for sure, could have won. They could have beaten Ohio State. They probably could very easily be 6-1 from the scores, certainly. And the Penn State game was much closer than it's appeared. And they were, their quarterbacks were dinged up. Sudfield was not playing, and Diamont was knocked out of the game as well. So they were on their third quarterback that game. So we expect a very, very good football game. I think they're, as I said, I think it'll be a great challenge for us. Always have been. We've played them every year.
Mark, Grayson said after the game that he and Kari are very close, have great chemistry, which is a big part of what they're able to do. How important is that, and what do they have intangibly that has allowed them to ascend like this?
Intangibly, they're both very meticulous people, and they're very tough-minded. So I think they're, Grayson was valedictorian of his high school class. Kari's an excellent student as well. Kari was a basketball player, played AAU teams all over the country, was a mid-major recruit in basketball. So he's used to being, I think, on a big stage and playing around major college players. So he's not intimidated by the situation at all. He's a very aggressive player. And I think Grayson is an outstanding athlete, great ball skills. He's big. When he came here at camp, he had one scholarship offer, Western Kentucky. And we looked at him at camp, and after he long jumped 10.6 and vertical 37 inches and ran 2.44s, and then went outside and caught the ball and did the drills, and he was 6'2.5", 205, we thought maybe we just ought to offer him a scholarship. So he is everything that we've thought he's going to be. He's an outstanding tackler as well. He had 6 tacklers, and he's only going to get better. And he's a very quick learner. Both those guys are very quick learners, and they're not intimidated by the situation, and they're hungry, and they'll play on every special teams and as well. And I've obviously got to back our coaches off a little bit in terms of using them on every special teams, but they're involved in those as well. So they're active players at a young age, but I think both those guys can be very, very good players for us.
Mark, following up on Graham's question, how much of the coverage issues are due to the trajectory of the punts and the kickoffs, and is that a technique issue or more confidence psychology?
I think it's confidence psychology, basically, because I think all of our specialists have the skills. So they just got to get back in rhythm. So that's the first thing. Second, I think our punt problems are twofold. One, we outpunted the coverage against Oregon, and Jake Hartberger has unbelievable ability. He reminds me of Tommy Tupa, who was at Ohio State when I was a graduate assistant there, punted a long time in the NFL. So great ability, but he's just young, and he needs to understand that he needs to step up there and do his best every single time. And don't worry about it if it's not. I'll worry about it. Okay, but I think that's youth. I just didn't want him involved in an environment at Michigan in this kind of game at this point. And I felt like Tyler O'Connor just had more, because he was a quarterback, a little bit more poise, and he's done a nice job punting the football. At the kickoff position, so I think it's twofold. I think it is coverage some, because we've out-punted the coverage a little bit, and doing some different things there. And our second level of coverage is our offensive linemen. So, if you break the first level, it gets difficult. Had a very talented returner and Peppers back there, and they had a good scheme. So that was that was, on their end. And then on the kickoff deal, we've got to kick the ball in the end zone more often. We're not doing that. Last year, 67% of his kicks were in the end zone or not returned, and this year it's 20%. So got to be better. And there's no other way to, after 7 games, there's no other way to say it except to say it. Our coverage, you got to take on people with the right technique. The first one that popped out with the kick was down to the 3, had good enough hang time. We take the ball on with the wrong shoulder by one of our players. And, T.J. Harrell takes the ball on with his wrong shoulder, and the ball splits. And, Matt Morrissey doesn't get over quite like he's supposed to, and so the ball spits out. And credit Michigan, but we could have prevented that as well, because I thought we had it bottled up. So a little bit of both on that one. But we got to get better kicks. And then when we make alternative kicks, we've got to cover the alternative kicks as well.
Mark, off the beaten path here, while my colleagues in here laugh at my technology rant. These games, I can raise a family in the time these games take to play. And I know I'm asking you to take your coaching hat off. You want to get the call right. But are we overdoing replay and booth review? It just seems insane.
I don't know if we're overdoing it or not. I see some that need to be replayed, and they're trying to get it right. I don't know what to say about that. Some things I can control, some things I can't. So there's no reason for me to, comment on things I can't control.
Mark, I noticed from last week's depth chart, Darian Hicks is not on there. Is there any update on him?
Well, right now he's questionable for the game. Now, whether he practices or not, we can't play him if he doesn't practice. So right now he's questionable.
The other question I had, playing off kind of what Hondo asked earlier, coming off an emotional win like that, so much spent in that, are these weeks for coaching staffs a little bit more difficult, or do you have to focus a little more to get these guys to kind of get past that a little bit, or is this group kind of good at that on their own?
That's senior leadership, number one, getting ourselves ready to play, and number two, much rather have it this way. But number 3 is, our dreams are in front of us. These are things that our players set down as goals and said, okay, this is what we want to do. And we've talked about how to reach our goals. You just don't say, hey, we're going to win all our games or we're going to go to the playoffs. You got to fight your way to that. So the next bout, the next challenge is Indiana coming in here. So I hope our players, after the success we've had here around here for the last 3 and 4 or 5 years, our players understand that you get there, and the only thing that matters is that you get there at the end. But that you get there through hard work, perseverance, conviction, and that has to be every single week. So that's how we're set up right now. That's the culture we have, so I would be extremely disappointed if we didn't come to play. That doesn't mean we're going to win. What that means is we're going to come emotionally ready to play. Go from there.
Got time for one more.
Oh, well, I was wondering why nobody asked me that. So, well, that's the mission number 1, I guess. But no, we were saying all week that mental is to physical as 4 is to 1. That you had to be 4 times mentally tough than you were physically tough. That inevitably it was going to come down to a mental game. They were going to make some plays. We're going to have to handle adversity. Going to have to handle a crowd, weather a storm, or be the storm, one of the two. And we were going to have to be able to do that. So that was where the 4 to 1 came in. The 10 seconds obviously comes in at the back end with the last 10 seconds of the game. But it also comes in on the front end because we sat on that bus for 10 extra seconds because I wanted to make sure our players understood the size of this game, the bigness of this particular game, the impact that it'll have not only on them at that point in time, but on their entire lives. And so that's where the 4-10 comes in. So that's where we're at.
Did you dance for 10 extra seconds?
I think I just danced for 10.
Coach, you want to introduce Tom?
Okay. Absolutely. Coach Izzo. He got a coat on today. I had no coat on. Midnight Madness coming this week. I want to thank Coach, first of all, for coming down to the game on Saturday. I haven't made that trek yet. Maybe I'll make that sometime. Take the abuse. Take the abuse.
You couldn't be on the bench like I could hiding, at my place, or at their place. But you know what's funny? You used to wear a sport coat and that here, and I used to dress like the class clown, and then you won 31 out of 34. I decided to wear a sport coat, try to catch up. And
what are you coming as this week?
Like me. Huh?
What are you coming as this week?
I might come as you right now.
No, come on.
Huh?
Come as those up.
See you, man.
Okay, man.